Welcome. In this video we're going to be looking at choosing the appropriate description, and what we're going to be looking at here is we're going to be looking at choosing the right kinds of description to enhance the quality of your narratives and making sure that you don't go on and write too much or write too little. Essentially choosing the right amount of description and language to be using when being able to communicate and write stories. As it is with an essay or another response, to go through that skill of practicing what needs to be written. Now, what that skill entails, and what you really need to be focusing on if you're doing something like this, is showing the details that the reader needs to see, eliminating anything that they don't need to see. So if it's not important to the story, cutting it. If it sounds good, doesn't matter, cut it. This is almost about editing your work as much as it is the approach for what you're doing when you're writing. Being mindful, as I said, that word selective is a really key one here because it is essentially about you choosing the best, ignoring, rejecting the rest. It is an important skill, and trust me, I come across so many pieces of work, and I know a lot of other teachers do it. It drives them nuts when they come across things which are so overwritten, say the exact same thing virtually over and over and over and over and over again, and it really does get tiring and draining and really loses all meaning very, very quickly. So you want to be very selective of these sorts of things, and it might seem like, oh well, this is something to do if you're really, really paying attention. It's just something to do in general. Not only does it save you a lot of work and a lot of time, but it shows that you're able to communicate more effectively, and that's essentially what you're getting your marks for. So if you really care about getting a really strong mark, then you'll be really focusing on writing what needs to be written. Okay, let's look at selectiveness of language now. One thing that you'll find about selectiveness of language is that the point of it being is that you're writing with an economy of language. Now, what an economy of language is going to do for you is it means that you're able to show things in the least amount of words possible. Now you might think, well, if I need to write 1,000 words, I don't want to be quite doing that. Well, the thing is that you're eliminating things that are confusing or unnecessary, and that's the real point of what you're trying to do. So if you get rid of unnecessary language, you'll actually get more for it than if you write say a 500 piece than you would with a 1,500 word piece with lots and lots of confusing and unnecessary language in there. Eliminating all of the clutter, so to speak, you're actually helping to refine your work, to make it a lot clearer, make it so that what you're writing comes across a lot better. The other thing is that you're not being judged by the size of your vocabulary either. The way you're able to deliver and represent a creative message is much more important than the words in which you use to deliver it. Try not to experiment too much with language when you are writing a response, particularly one for an exam. Even though it's okay for when you're doing just writing at home and writing in general, in fact it's a great idea to experiment with language as much as possible. When you're doing it for a response, it's probably better just to keep it simple and to keep it in such a way where you're able to represent things quite clearly, to try and bring the word length of your work down rather than up. I mean, you're trying to project a message in the fewest amount of words rather than the most. Now, obviously you don't put it down to like a page, but you do try and focus on getting rid of bits of clutter, it's better to err on the side of being slightly less than the word limit than slightly more and having lots of things in there that don't need to be there. Trying to build upon your ideas, build upon your description. If you find yourself with a smaller word limit, try and build up your description rather than adding new events. But be very selective of language. That's the main thing you can possibly do.